Slurpy Dirt my G's, hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to do a little quick drum break tutorial, aim and break processing. First, just some really quick shout outs. Big ups to Mike Briggs, shout out to James Mumford, shout out to Cobra, shout out to Darotum, Xenopath as well, and big up to Let's Synthesize, Ian Treek, Digipax, Phil Boyer, Andy D, Madaza Music, Count House Helmet, Wilberforce, Tidal Crack, Rolled in a Raw, Rico Lee, and did I say Wilberforce? Yeah, Wilberforce again. Yeah, I've read all of your guys' comments and I appreciate them all. And thanks for all your support on the channel. Love you, my G's. Anyway, here is an aim and break, and I wanted to make a video together how I would process an aim and break without adding any extra layers, just using the break to get the most out of it and get it ready for a mix down. And if I only had like 5 or 10 minutes just to like prepare an aim and break to be used in a track, how would I chop it? How would I do it like really, really quickly? And so it's ready to be used, you know? So I've got like a, good quality aim and break. It's got that classic aim and break sound. It has that sort of kick drum where it's that old school kick. It's not like a brand new punchy, low end, powerful sine wave kick, but I'm going to try and just get the best out of the break without replacing any of the hits. And so how I would go about starting the process is the aim and break is just looping on repeat. So I only actually have this little part that loops over and over again. So the first thing is that we can just chop up the important hits. And usually you should be able to chop directly on the grid. That should be fine. And we can start by chopping it just like this. And then if we need to make the chunks smaller, then we can. But let's notice what we've got here. So the first one is obviously the main kick, isn't it? So I'm going to take this down here, and this is going to be the kick. And you'll notice there's some other kicks later on. Here, there's a double kick, but it's sort of like a ghost kick, I would say. And it's not quite as impactful or as powerful as the first one. So I'll probably process that one separately. Because I don't think it needs to I don't think I'll want to sidechain it as much, that one. When I've chopped them directly squarely to the grid, and I haven't had to use fading because the files still directly flow into each other. So by doing it like this, you can still ensure that the flow is going to be accurate. You know, if I was to like shorten the files and things like that, then I'm going to get that choppiness. So I like to chop things like without changing the length, you know, if possible. So let's go ahead and do the snare next. So obviously that's the snare. And then we've got another one there. So if I, now this is going to be a really quick video because it's quite an easy task. But if I was to, for example, you can hear there's like these little clicks on the start, you know. Like on these hats, but you don't hear it when it's the whole thing together, because the click is the click is happening because the audio before it is missing, you know. But if the audio before it is in, then the click won't be there. So just something to bear in mind. So with the kick, why don't we see if we can just like get a bit more punch out of the kick just by EQing the fundamental. So we can find where that main meaty part of the kick is. It might be around here. We could boost the subby part. Almost think I prefer to boost the subby part of the kick personally. You can kind of go either way. Quite like that. The reason I'm doing that is just because the aim and break is like, yeah, it doesn't have the most powerful kick to begin with, but you know, you could replace the kick with a new one underneath. But if you want to like keep it intact, then, and just like the purpose of this video is just to enhance what we've got without adding any new layers. So I'm just going to give it a nice fundamental boost at the kick here. You can see like where the peak is on the fundamental, and I actually like to sort of boost like a little bit to the left of the peak always, like a little bit under it, just so I'm really making sure I'm getting the real low end part in case it's like slightly inaccurate, okay? Okay, a little bit of 3.5 dB or so. Let's move on to the snare. And so the kick is obviously the only part where we definitely need the low end in, okay? And the main part of clearing out the break is getting rid of the low end from all of the parts where we don't need it, so that we've got more room for the other sounds that we're going to use in the track. So you can see here the snare. It's got all this rumble from the break that doesn't need to be in there, okay? So, because really that fundamental is just here, it's just there, you know? Let's go over it twice, just in case, because I'm doing quite smooth sloping with the EQ. If I go up too high like this, you know, I'd already be taking out the fundamental frequency, so I don't ever want to go too high. I'm just trying to take out as much rumble as I can in a smooth way as possible. Okay, so that's pretty nice around there. So let's just make sure the break is still sort of flowing together after I've done those EQ changes. So there's no like choppiness or gaps or clicks, you know, it's still working together. So yeah, sounding great so far. I'm just going to make sure I'm always going to clip the channel where, you know, obviously, although I've just taken away frequencies on the EQ, what it's actually done is it's actually massively made the volume spike up on the channel, but that's not necessarily that's not the perceived volume. You know, the perceived volume is actually the same, but I just need to clip things to make it, you know, nice and tidy always. Then we can go on to the hats then, which of course we're gonna be able to take out even more low end on these guys. And we do have somewhat of a fundamental quite low here, around 300. So to keep the character of the break, we're probably going to want to leave that part in. And that's going to be a part in the mix down where it could be conflicting with other sounds, leads and basses and things like that. And in that case, you could think about sidechaining that area, for example. But for now, I'm just going to leave that part in. So it's quite we're leaving quite a lot of low end still in the hats, to be fair. I'll try to go up to about 200, and then we'll just do another little once over. Okay, obviously very horrible and clicky, but now if we go back with the other elements, hopefully it'll sound like it flows again still. So still completely flowing, and then there's other things we could think. If I was to, for example, change the shaping of the break and mess with the transients, I might start to lose the flow. So I'm going to probably avoid doing that for this particular break. I think we still need to process the ghost kick together though. So with this one, we can probably. Let's see if our like low fundamental kick boost will work over here as well. We'll just throw that on and have a listen. Yeah, so it kind of works. So we can kind of decide if we want to have the ghost kick like as powerful as the main one by giving it that boost, or if we want to leave it off. And it's up to you know, how the mix down is going to work with the basses and everything like that. So if I add the bass back in now, what I could already do is do a nice sidechain from the first kick. So to sidechain the first kick, I don't really actually need to do, you know, an actual compressor. I can just do an LFO tool, for example, take out the volume of the first part over here, and maybe make that a little bit longer, get rid of this second one here. So So for the ghost kick, we can do a separate sidechain and just making sure that we're choosing the right area on the grid where those kicks happen around here. And maybe we can use a bit less of an extreme sidechain for the ghosts. So we just take out a little bit of bass, but not as much, you know. I'm going to test it again without the EQ boost on the ghost kicks. And then we can probably sidechain it even less. So quite like that. So we've dynamically processed the bass with the sidechaining depending on the power of the kick during the pattern. Okay, so the first one is obviously that main, you know, daddy kick, and then as we go on, obviously the ghost kicks, like we're sidechaining them just a little bit, but not as much. Okay. And for this kind of, you know, bass that I've got in here, I'm not gonna bother sidechaining the snare, for example. Because it doesn't really conflict so much in the spectrum, at least not very much to notice. So what I could do now is I could just, for example, make some adjustments to the actual arrangement of the break now. So why don't we have a little experiment over here and just like, we can just chop some parts around, you know. So what I've gone ahead and done is I've gone ahead and just chopped up the break and moved some of the parts around. So basically, in the second section, I kind of just switch up the groove. I move a couple of the hats in different positions, and I move the ghost kick back as well in one part over here, where the ghost kick was sitting in the middle. I've actually moved it back one and then placed the hat in front of it. And because that's going to affect my sidechain, and I haven't sidechained directly from the kick, just a quick solution to that is I've just made another bass channel. And then for the sidechain, I've just shifted the position. So in that moment where the ghost kick is in a different spot, the sidechain will happen in the right place, you know? So the second part of the section then sounds like this. Okay, and by keeping just those like very, very simple like chunks of audio without, you know, really like changing the length of them or like chopping them up in too small parts, I've been able to keep the flow of the break nice and easily, and it hasn't been too difficult to, you know, remix the break a little bit. So you can hear the sort of difference between the first half and the second half when you play it all through. So it's got a nice like funky variation halfway through. And the most important thing though from this tutorial is what we've done is we've processed the break in such a way where we've been able to separate all of the main elements, clear up space in the mix, and now, yeah, like you can easily go on to finish writing the rest of the track and have all that extra space in the low end and in the mid range cleared out, and you've got these layers separated as well. So if you wanted to do some direct side chaining like directly from the kick, now you can do that. If you want to do some side chaining like directly from the snare, you can do that as well. And just once we've sort of chopped out all the parts, we can go ahead and like regroup the break just into like a, you know, a final drum bus, and then we can use something like a bit of wings fire if we want, just to saturate the high end. So we can just process it and give it like a little bit more power and punch if we want. But the whole break is flowing. It's still intact. It's been separated. We've cleaned out the rumble in the parts of the break that don't need it. And yeah, we've then given it just a little bit of a like presence boost with saturation to like yeah, give it make it slightly more powerful in the high end. So that's just a quick and easy way that you can process the aim and break and make it a little bit more ready to be used without actually having to layer things up. And just keep it simple when you're chopping it. Make sure the flow is always there. The most important thing to always ensure is that you keep the flow going. If you start to lose the flow or get like horrible clicks or little gaps, then you need to like undo and just go back and be a bit more simple with how you're going to process it and chop it. Hope that was a helpful tutorial for you guys. I will be back with another video tomorrow. Much love, my G's. Take care.